No, no, just they are flying, just prepare the God.
Have you, is the English one? You can answer the first question. Yeah. Yes, if you haven't logged into Slido yet, please do that and answer the first question.
Yeah. Now it's live. Not yet. Let me. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I can see the answer. Yeah.
Excellent.
Can we just see again? Can you speak on the microphone?
Sonido, sonido, hola.
Probando uno,
Probando.
dos, tres, probando.
Tenemos eco. Adem,
No se paren en el.
Hola.
Ok.
¿ahora escuchas bien, Adem? Sí. ¿Y ahí? Hay eco. ¿Tú estás escuchando bien?
Perfect. Gracias, Adem. Muchas
Adem
gracias.
ahí. Adem.
Yeah, it's good. So don't worry for that minute.
Hola.
No, no, it was perfect.
Hola. No, no, no. I have
No,
echo
this
here.
need to
This.
coop.
Right?
Yeah.
And everything will come from. Good. Temo.
it's working. This one or? Yeah. I think this one there. And if you need just there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We are very glad to see you here in this side event on localization in action. We would like to invite you to join us in a Slido. You have in the screen and over there the link and also the codes that you can use. The codes are available in Spanish, English, and French. So please choose the language that you feel more comfortable and help us answering the first question. And we will be able to feedback in a moment on the results. So ideally, this side event is not only a side event when we will share with you experiences from the national societies, but also hearing from you experiences on your work in localization, on the preparedness for response, which is a work that many national societies, of course, conduct around the world. We are very happy to introduce a group of speakers, a group of colleagues that are having and sharing with us different experience today. First of all, I would like to introduce Mrs. Pascal Mesh. Thank you, Pascal. She is the head of the Disaster and Crisis Department at the International Federation of the Red Cross here in Geneva. She will provide some opening remarks, so thank you for that. We had also a group of national societies, Ms. Tamar Kamkamitsi, head of international department at Georgia Red Cross. We also have Ms. Dava Pat-George, director of programs and cooperation from Mongolian Red Cross. And we have Mr. Alexei Castro, Secretary General from Honduras Red Cross. And to my right, Carla Taylor, the DRM advisor from Canadian Red Cross, who will work very closely during many years now, and who has been working with us in preparing this side event. So thank you for joining us, and let's start because we will have only 1 hour side event, and we already have few minutes on. We are live transmitting in Teams, so hopefully we will have more colleagues and national societies and IFRC, ICRC offices joining us remotely. So please, Pascal.
Thank you, Marjorie, and good afternoon, everybody. Can I just ask who is from a national society or from IFRC/ICRC? Can you raise your hands? Big majority. And who is from a government? All right. I was hoping it would be actually the other proportion, because I do believe that there is still a lot of work that we need to do to convince governments about the value of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. But maybe just to give a bit of a frame to the conversation that you will have today. Localization has become a buzzword, as we all know, since the World Humanitarian Summit. We keep hearing about it at international level in just about every meeting that we take part in. And as it happens with buzzwords, it is at times becoming a bit abstract. So often you find people talking about localization, but maybe not necessarily understanding or aligning on what is it that it entails. And the title for today is Localization in Action, but I think we could have titled it Local Action or Local Humanitarian Action, in fact, to bring it into the right spirit of what is it that we are talking about. We are talking about humanitarian action at the ground level, right? I believe that there is no more need to convince ourselves on the value of local humanitarian action. We all see it as very logical, whether we come from the Red Cross Red Crescent movement or from governments. I would hope the needs are growing, spreading humanitarian action has to reach more people, and hence localization is definitely seen as one of the major changes that can help address these growing needs. And while we all agree on the specific value of local action and the need to scale up local humanitarian action, that if we don't do it, we will fail our humanitarian mission, I still feel that we still have not grasped what is the change that the humanitarian system needs to go through in order to make it really happen. The humanitarian system that we call an ecosystem, even if it's an ecosystem with a lot of different components, is still not shaped bottom up. It is still a very top-down system that goes rather global to local instead of local to global, maybe still abstract and conceptual. but it still basically does not work on the principles of complementarity and solidarity, with local humanitarian actions being the ones at the center and the ones closest to the needs that they are answering to. What it is still shaped around is rather using local actors to deliver responses that are designed by international organizations, that deliver our responses as international, instead of being the ones that are in charge of the humanitarian action, and then ask for support where and when needed. So as local as possible and as international as necessary. This is what was behind the word localization, but it does not yet seem to be fully integrated into the way we shape things. So there is progress, but there is still much more that needs to be done to truly change this paradigm and revert the way the humanitarian sector, this humanitarian ecosystem is working. Obviously, there are still questions that many people are asking themselves, especially from the donor side, the government side, or at least they have those questions in their heads. They might not dare asking them at times because it might seem a little bit condescending and a little bit provocative, or colonialist even at times. But actually, a lot of people are still having the question of what is actually the capacity of local actors to deliver. Are they really to the same level as these big international organizations that we are all knowing, and we know their capacity and they are good at communicating about what they do? So, these multiple local actors, how do we deal with them? Do they abide by all the rules and frameworks that have been developed over so many years at the international level? What is actually their capacity, and how do we measure their capacity to deliver humanitarian action on ground? So I think today what is really important is to make sure that we all come with a common understanding of what is the approach that we use in the Red Cross Red Crescent network. What is our approach to help assessing the capacity to deliver humanitarian response from our national societies, which are, we believe, the local actor by excellence, and definitely the one that has also this very specific positioning with the governments as auxiliaries to their government for emergencies. This approach that you will be discussing is gaining a lot of traction. You will hear we have amazing examples. I would be very keen on hearing also how much you are benefiting from all the efforts that have been going into developing it, but I will have to leave you, unfortunately, very soon. But just to say that we would really want to also have the government representatives here asking any question they have. It's a safe space. Even if people are tweeting, I think we can agree that we will not tweet questions in a provocative way. It is very important that those questions are expressed, because I think it's important for our national societies to also understand why are governments still hesitating in partnering more with their own national societies, or donor government in channeling more resources and support for our local humanitarian action. So I will stop here, Marjorie, Carla, and leave you.
Thank you, Pascal, for joining us, and thank you for your words. Yes, we will have the opportunity today to hear from national societies some successful experiences using the Preparedness for Effective Response approach, which is an approach that the Red Cross and Red Crescent national societies are using. And the goal of this approach is really to support these national societies in fulfilling their auxiliary role, of course, strengthening the local capacities of the national societies, in particularly to make sure that our support is timely and is efficient. So we will start hearing from our colleagues. Now I will give the floor to Carla, please.
So I'm going to explain the Grand Bargain Workstream 2 set up 4 areas for localization. The Preparedness for Effective Response has then taken those 4 commitments and refined those to how preparedness for effective response at the local and national level can actually contribute to these areas. So the first area was capacity strengthening, which is increasing the knowledge and skills of local and national actors in preparedness and response in a continuous process. That's what we're hoping to do. For coordination, it is to increase the engagement of the local and national actors in leading and coordinating the responses themselves. For finance, it is to strengthen the investment, but also the long-term planning and the strategic direction of that preparedness for response. And the partnership is about increasing a culture of learning and participation to improve effectiveness and trust within the response. So I've just got a few examples here, which are quotes from national societies. So the first one here is on the capacity strengthening. And so this is from Nepal after they had gone through the process. And the achievement here is essentially that it was the first time that the leadership got to hear from the local and national responders about what was working and what wasn't in the many operational reviews that had happened within the recent years. And that was a platform that hadn't existed before. And then from there, they developed a plan on what were the needs and the skills that they felt they needed to improve. The second one here is from Haiti after going through the process. And this was on increasing the coordination. So this was felt that after they did simulations and drills through this process with the local and national actors, that they were able to determine which areas of weakness existed in their coordination within the Red Cross and with their other partners and authorities. The next quote is from Nicaragua. So they had gone through the process for many years, and one of the achievements they felt was that it allowed them to develop an evidence-based plan that they could then share with multiple donors to increase the investment, and it also contributed to a process of long-term planning for increasing their response capacity. And the last example here is from Jamaica. And this was their opinion from going through the process doing the simulations was that it contributed to a learning environment. So it started to break down the silos between the departments and between the levels and was creating an environment where they were sharing information, and they found that very empowering to have more of a teamwork atmosphere to responding to the crises and emergencies. So I just wanted to highlight, these are a few of the expectations that have come from the local and national actors of what they want to get out of the PER process. So this is what we're working towards. To develop a realistic plan based on their needs and their potential, to have a real monitoring of the preparedness actions. So this isn't a one-time thing, it's a long-term, but it is cyclical in terms of reassessing, developing, refining, and reassessing. To use a structured methodology, so I will highlight that in a minute, but to use the same language within preparedness and in response. And so they're starting to use common focus, and things are able to be comparative over the long term. To receive technical support according to those needs, either from the Red Cross or external, to be part of a network and to increase greater collaboration among Red Cross and within the country, and to increase resources for long-term preparedness investment. So you may hear other acronyms. So we call it, it's the Preparedness for Effective Response approach. This has been developed over decades of work and investment in preparedness. This encompasses what was called WPNS, what was DRESI, what was the NDPRM. There's tons of acronyms which we won't go into, but just for you to understand that this has evolved over decades, and it's all now encompassed in this broader approach. So what I'm going to do is highlight 7 principles that have developed over these learnings and experiences that are used to for the national actors to apply the PER. So the first one is the national understanding, ownership, and commitment. So there is an orientation process that is ongoing that we do with the national societies. And that is intended so they fully understand what is it and how can they best use it. The other piece is the commitment to the ongoing action. So something was happening before we started, something will continue after, but it's that commitment to investing in this and working towards that collaborative goal. So the second one is evidence-based methodologies. So the first picture there is the PER mechanism. So that's the what we're looking at. It's 37 components within 5 areas that make up a response system, regardless of what level or who you are. So this is the common language part. There's also then benchmarks, which exist within those components of what the organization is aiming for. So an example here is an emergency operations center, and the benchmark is that it's self-sufficient with electricity, water, and IT. These benchmarks are based on the principles and rules for humanitarian assistance and other global standards. So this is the part of it being evidence-based and also comparable over time. The third principle is holistic and system-wide. So this is trying to bring response out of its DM box. Of course, DM is critical to this, but they aren't the only actors and they aren't the only supports that enable us as organizations to deliver services in an emergency. So we are trying to work towards a systematic approach that includes all of the actors and all of the levels. So it's not just a headquarters, it's not just the local, it's looking holistically at that system. The next one is practical, adaptable, and scalable. So we have one approach, but there's many ways for the organization to engage with it. It can be done through simulations, it can be done through real operations, it can be done as a self-assessment. The scope of it can be adaptable based on what the organization needs. You know, does it need a 5-year investment plan, or does it just need to tweak and see if what they're doing is working? The sixth principle is participatory inclusive planning. So again, it involves all of the actors from the branch to the headquarters, all of the departments, and it is intended to develop one plan. This could be in many forms. It could be tied to the organization's strategy. It can be an annual plan. And there's also some guidelines for national societies on how to implement this approach over the long term with their organizations. So there's parts in there about the change management, political will, and more of that human side of trying to make something like this happen with people. And the last principle is on coordination and collaboration. Oh, no, one last. In the last year, we've been working on a global plan and regional plans with the IFRC and partners to have the necessary supports to work with the national societies on this and roadmaps of where they want to go with this so we can support more peer-to-peer collaboration as well. And there's also been some accompanying processes which have started to use the PER framework. So there was some readiness mapping done in both the Americas and Europe based on those 37 components. So they're able to see what strategies exist, what contingency plans exist, how much investment has been put into certain areas. So the international support is better able to know what they need to reinforce, but also neighboring national societies can better support each other. And now the last one is the optimization and alignment of the tools and resources. So there's been a lot of work done over the past couple of years of how PER can work with other technical tools, because if it is to be comprehensive and systematic, it also has to link with everything else that's going on. So like linking with cash-based tools, linking with urban disaster, linking with environmental sustainability, and also a lot of work recently on epidemics. So working with the health teams on how the PER general approach can also be considered with the additional elements of epidemics. So maybe go to the next. The okay.
Okay, so very quick reminder to join us. Thank you. A quick reminder to join us in Slido. There is a second question, and the third question will be available in a second. The information is out there, but also here you can choose the language of your preference. So now we will move to the national societies to hear more on their experiences. So first, I will give the floor to Georgia Red Cross.
Greetings, I'm Tamar from Georgia Red Cross, Head of International. Thank you very much for inviting us, and it's a great pleasure for us to share our experience in preparedness for effective response process in our country. First of all, I would like to say that our country, Georgia, is very much prone to many natural disasters. It's a seismic zone. Here we are very frequent earthquakes, flooding, landslide, avalanches. And you can see the pictures of flooding in Tbilisi, capital of Georgia, in 2015, where more than 20 people died during this disaster. It was heavy rains which caused flooding, landslides, and the Georgia Red Cross Society really worked 24/7, mobilized lots of volunteers. And after this process, we identified, we had many lessons learned. We identified main gaps, capacities, and from 2017, we started, at first it was WPNS, Well Prepared National Society process. IFRC supported us very much. So in 2017, in November, a working group was established, which was consisted of all the departments of our national society. And we had mapping of all the gaps and capacities of the national society. And after this, we elaborated scenarios together with our movement partners, IFRC and ICRC. And then based on the scenarios, we conducted simulation exercises. It was very much participatory. All the relevant departments were participating in this simulation exercise. Also, Red Cross supported us very much. IFRC, ICRC were observing the simulation. And we, of course, identified many gaps and capacities during the simulation. Our main can you go? Yes. Also, we worked on a cash and voucher assistance. It's very important for our national society to develop our capacities in this regard. And with Danish Red Cross, we worked very much on this. We conducted TOTs and we elaborated standard operational procedures in cash and voucher assistance, which will be a very good tool during disaster response in our country. Our main expectations, of course, was aligning our national society capacity to respond with recommended global standards. As I have already mentioned, mapping of existing resources and identifying main gaps to fill them and to enhance our capacities. Our main impact and outcomes after this process, we elaborated scenarios and a movement contingency plan was elaborated. IFRC, ICRC were actively involved in this process. Also, we developed standard operational procedures, which are very important for institutionalization of all the knowledge and memory of our national society. And in elaboration of SOPs, our volunteers were also very much involved. They had many recommendations in this regard. And we improved our response during emergency situations, during natural hazards, as well as during civil unrest and demonstrations. And before June 2019, we didn't have any experience in responding to demonstrations or these conflict situations. This PER process supported us very much because we elaborated scenarios, we had SOPs on this. So in June, we mobilized our first aid psychosocial volunteers. We distributed water during the demonstration in the capital city of Georgia, Tbilisi. So this process helped us a lot to strengthen our capacities also in this regard, because civil unrest and demonstrations had like different contexts than dealing with natural disasters. And our national society has auxiliary role to the government, and it's only one non-state organization which is part of civil safety nation plan, and we have the role of to coordinate all the non-state actors working in disaster management field in Georgia. And this process also helped us to strengthen our capacity coordination and cooperation with non-state actors, as well as central and local government in Georgia. So this is very briefly about our experience. And should you have any questions, anytime, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reminding us on the importance of the institutionalization of the processes to make sure that things are really staying with us and not forgotten very easily. Of course, also the need to make sure that we adapt our systems, our processes to new challenges, because many more things are coming, and the national societies and all the local actors really need to think about those different challenges, context-related situations that they are facing. So now we will give the floor to Dava from Mongolian Red Cross.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have been discussing about this topic for more than a decade now, local action and climate change. Climate change is imminent and disasters, the frequency and complexity is increasing. So what do? What we can do as a Red Cross National Society is to prepare in advance. So disasters going to happen. We are doing all our best, but as auxiliary to the government also, we have the obligation to be prepared for natural disasters. So for Mongolian Red Cross, this process has started in 2016 when we first did the PER assessment, when it was called DRESI, or Disaster Response Capacity Enhancement Evaluation. So in 2016, when we did it, there was a simulation exercise where you can actually test your system internally and externally to see what is lacking, what is missing. So through this 2016 process, we were able to identify what were our main weaknesses. Most of it was very procedural, including the standard operating procedures. So in terms of disaster, we knew who would do what, but we didn't document that process, not taking into consideration that what if the person who is in charge unfortunately gets harmed during the disaster. So who would replace who? So this kind of things were not standardized. And it was also the first time that we actually accepted the importance of pre-disaster agreements. And after this process, we were able to advocate the pre-disaster agreements to public and also private entities. So there has been a lot of things going on after that. And we were able to see also one challenge in the legal base in the disaster protection. So fortunately, the timing was good. In 2017, the Mongolian government actually decided to update the disaster protection law. That was a good opportunity for Mongolian Red Cross to actually, advocate and chip into the law. So now in the new disaster protection law, the roles and responsibilities of Mongolian Red Cross is mentioned with our organizational name. So by law, we're obliged. So what do we do now? We have more responsibilities, so we have to be better prepared. And for the 2 years, we have developed an action plan to enhance our capacity. And in 2019, just a month ago, we conducted the PER assessment, Preparedness for Effective Response. And when we compared the two assessments from 2016 to 2019, we have seen some improvements, which was some of them were good. And in the operational capacity, analysis and planning and coordination, operational support and policy strategy and standards. But you can see in the operational support, the increase has been little less because this is a complex issue. It involves all the operational sectors, not only disaster management or programming, but also finance, the PMER, the IT, the communications. So everyone is involved. Also, it involves logistics and fleet and warehousing, which is a very resource consuming sector to actually improve the capacity. However, we're moving forward. And with this 2019 evaluation, we were able to come up with a 4-year comprehensive plan to enhance our response capacity. So what we have gained through going to this process is, firstly, in the process, we were able to gain more advocacy role in the country. And luckily, we have included our roles in the disaster protection law. We had better coordination. Having the comprehensive plan, it was easy to communicate with partners, with donors, and with national stakeholders, both within and outside the country. And it's also a good marketing tool to actually move things forward, to assess yourself. And we had a good cross-sectoral cooperation, the pre-disaster meeting. So next slide. So through this process, there are many weaknesses we have, still some challenges. So we have prioritized the most important ones and come up with a long-term plan. And we are now going to use this as a resource mobilization tool, also use it in our leadership and decision-making level to actually enhance our response capacity. We're also sharing this widely with our humanitarian country team members in country, all the humanitarian organizations and the National Emergency Management Agency in country. So they have a better understanding of what we are capacitated to do and what improvements we need and what areas we can work together with. So this, I would say, overall in general, PER is not only a tool, but it also helps like open up new rooms and also work as a resource mobilization in country and building good partnerships and start a new dialogue with people who we have never talked to with and come up with, understand the things that were missed out and think that it's important. I would like to highlight the pre-disaster agreements. That was the word that we heard for the first time in 2016, and now we have done some of the agreements already. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dava. It's really great to hear this experience and also to be reminded that the importance of having a plan, a multi-year plan, a plan that integrates many different teams in the national society will help the national society not only to improve the response capacity, which is the main objective, but of course, helping the national society to mobilize additional resources, technical, financial resources that are very much needed. Thank you so much. Now we will pass the floor to Alexei Castro, the Secretary General of Honduran Red Cross. There is a bilingual translation from some of you who want to use Spanish and French translation is available.
Gracias, Marjorie. Gracias a todos por acompañarnos. Ya como mencionó Marjorie, soy Alexei Castro, director general de Cruz Roja hondureña. Rápidamente queremos conversar o compartir con ustedes el contexto en nuestro país es bastante complejo. como las colegas también. Oh, no. A lot of people has not handset, I guess.
Handsets are available over here. If you want to take it, we can take few minutes.
Yes. It's not working this one? Sorry about that.
If you haven't answered the questions in Slido yet, you can take this opportunity too.
It's a very good opportunity.
I can see there's only been 3.
Yeah. There is a code in different languages in Slido for those of you who want to share your thoughts with us. No. No lo necesitas, Alex. Good. Everybody ready with the handset? Translation is okay? Thank you.
Gracias. Let's try again. Intentemos. Rápidamente, nuestro país es bastante complejo. Si pueden ver en el mapa, este para nosotros es el Océano Atlántico y aquí abajo está el Océano Pacífico. Estamos rodeados de 2 enormes océanos que con mucha frecuencia nos envían huracanes, nos envían tempestades, nos envían problemas. Ese es un primer gran dificultad o amenaza que tenemos. La siguiente, estamos en Centroamérica y para nosotros es el puente de todos los migrantes que vienen desde el sur hacia la búsqueda de Estados Unidos. Nosotros no solamente estamos recibiendo migrantes de América, sino también estamos recibiendo migrantes de África, del Caribe, de distintos países que encuentran América como una manera más fácil, entre comillas, para poder llegar a Estados Unidos. Eso está volviendo todavía más complejo el sistema de respuesta en nuestro país. Somos una población de 9 millones de habitantes, más del 70% viven en la pobreza. Estamos en el rango número 5 de país con más alto nivel de riesgo en el mundo. Eso es sumamente alto si lo comparamos con las otras variables de pobreza, migración, nivel de escolaridad y desintegración familiar. También en nuestro país, desafortunadamente, el tema de la violencia es sumamente fuerte y ha creado todo un clima desfavorable para nuestro propio desarrollo. Desafortunadamente, el desplazamiento por violencia forzada se ha vuelto un tema muy complejo que nos obliga a cambiar nuestra manera de responder a los nuevos retos humanitarios en el país. Nos obliga a pensar fuera de la caja, a intentar combinar todos los esfuerzos que podamos conseguir con el gobierno, con el Comité Internacional de la Cruz Roja, con otras sociedades nacionales, con la empresa privada, con las instituciones públicas. Es intentar hacer una enorme alianza para atender los nuevos retos humanitarios. Antes estábamos en un área de confort, y no es que fuera fácil, pero era un área de confort atendiendo inundaciones, sequías, deslizamiento. Eso lo manejábamos muy bien. Pero con los años, los nuevos retos humanitarios van complicando los escenarios. Piensen, por favor, en una población migrante dentro de una inundación. La población migrante quiere estar invisible, no quiere estar en los registros públicos, no quieren estar en las estadísticas. Eso hace más compleja cualquier intervención. Por eso me gustaría que piensen un poco también lo complejo que es este tipo de situaciones cuando vamos sumando capas de nuevos elementos en la respuesta humanitaria. The previous one, please. Rápidamente vemos de este lado una crisis crónica, inundaciones, muy fácil, pero adentro hay migrantes de distintas nacionalidades que ejercen presión sobre los recursos en nuestro país. Y me refiero a salud, alimento, alojamiento. Son personas que no están en las listas de nuestros planes de respuesta y por lo tanto son nuevas personas y están fuera totalmente de nuestros recursos originalmente planificados. Eso es un reto complejo para atender. La siguiente fotografía, the previous one, esta es una inmensa caravana de migrantes del año pasado. Imagínense ustedes poder atender más de 2,000 personas que de manera masiva quieren cruzar la frontera, con todo lo que eso implica. Niños, mujeres embarazadas, personas con discapacidad. Estos son retos humanitarios reales que estamos viviendo en nuestro país. Y eso por un lado, cuando ellos logran salir del país y llegan a las siguientes fronteras, son detenidos y son retornados al país. Y para nosotros también representa otro reto, es cómo atendemos a las personas retornadas. Y ellos están yendo por distintas razones, razones económicas, razones políticas y por otras situaciones de violencia. Eso hace otra vez más complejo nuestro análisis. Marjorie, ahora sí. ¿Dónde estamos ahora? Como Cruz Roja hondureña hemos venido caminando por más de 10 años. Carla lo mencionó en su presentación. La preparación no es un suceso, es un proceso que tiene que ir acompañado con el apoyo de todos los actores y con el entendimiento claro de cuál es nuestro rol de cada uno de los actores. Ahora tenemos nosotros más personas involucradas, con más participantes, y por ejemplo, nosotros comenzamos nuestro largo camino de preparación desarrollando herramientas para medir, para preparar y para responder. Con los años, las herramientas se convirtieron en metodologías para trabajar con la comunidad y con la rendición de cuentas. Con los años continuamos nosotros y ahora tenemos estructuras, procesos mucho más estructurados. Podemos hacer pronósticos, tenemos coordinación interinstitucional, tenemos nosotros transferencia de efectivo, apoyo psicosocial, procesos mucho más estructurados que facilitan la calidad de nuestra respuesta con todos los grupos vulnerables que atendemos. Y finalmente, en este estado estamos ahora. Ahora venimos, como decía, de herramientas a metodologías, de metodologías a procesos estructurados y ahora a sistemas, con sistemas de alerta temprana, sistemas para grupos de trabajo en temas de preparación, más calidad, más eficiencia y, por supuesto, con intervenciones intentando la acción sin daño. Regrésate, por favor. Sí, no te preocupes. Solo quiero mencionar rápidamente, esto no lo hemos hecho solos. Esto ha sido con el concurso de muchísimos soportes. Abajo están algunas de las iniciativas. No las menciono todas, pero son ahí. Hemos recibido apoyo de muchas organizaciones, de miembros de nuestro movimiento también, y eso nos ha permitido crecer. No lo hemos hecho solos y vamos a continuar en ese camino. La sumatoria ahora de la sociedad nacional bien preparada, mi colega lo mencionó también, con el DRESI como otras herramientas de medición, nos tiene ahora en el enfoque de localización que estamos en este momento implementando. Y es un pedacito de nuestra certificación NOCAC a la que aspiramos llegar el próximo año. Rápidamente, nuestros alcances. Pues ahora actualmente tenemos políticas que hemos mejorado, políticas internas de género, antifraude y corrupción, nosotros como sociedad nacional, políticas de rendición de cuentas o mecanismos de rendición de cuentas a través de los arreglos, de los acuerdos, de las asociaciones que hemos tenido y aprendiendo también de otras organizaciones. Por supuesto, estamos mucho más coordinados. En pantalla pueden ver dos de los mecanismos de cash transfer que estamos utilizando como parte de nuestra nueva manera de atender las crisis humanitarias, para dignificar la ayuda humanitaria, para atender mejor las crisis y ser mucho más eficientes. Estamos más coordinados y maximizamos, o lo intentamos, el uso de los recursos. Marjorie. Por supuesto, hemos también mejorado mucho la coordinación interna local con nuestras autoridades. Eso implica que nuestros planes de respuesta están vinculados con los planes de respuesta de las municipalidades y el gobierno también nos provee de recursos para atender crisis específicas. En este caso, pongo como ejemplo, el gobierno nos asigna fondos para atender un centro de atención de retornados, de población retornada en Honduras. Eso es muy importante porque tenemos poblaciones que tienen un rostro amigo para atenderles después de regresar de 24, quizás de 48, probablemente más días de detención. La siguiente. Y por supuesto, también hemos mejorado nuestro esquema de operación con protocolos de acceso más seguro para nuestros voluntarios. Tenemos el seguro de operaciones para voluntarios también. Hemos implementado distintas herramientas como el ODK o el Mega 5. Creo que algunos de las sociedades nacionales aquí presentes también lo han hecho. Tenemos un sistema de base de datos para manejar a nuestros voluntarios también, GPS en nuestros vehículos. Son pequeños pasos que hemos ido dando a lo largo de estos años que nos permiten tener un mejor abordaje en nuestra intervención. Lo importante aquí es que, al menos dentro de nuestra sociedad nacional, todos nuestros actores, todas nuestras partes involucradas saben cuál es su rol, desde la parte logística, la parte administrativa, la parte operativa. En el pasado siempre la operación se peleaba con la administración. Ahora, no digo que es que ya lo solucionamos, pero es mucho más fácil atender una emergencia cuando dentro de la sociedad nacional y afuera conocemos mejor nuestro rol.
Thank you, Alexei.
Muchas gracias.
Thanks for the reminder of many different aspects, and of course, the need to be ready for different situations and the collaboration and coordination with the governments. And you will describe many other achievements from your national society. So now we will pass again to check the results in the
So I'm just going to show a few of the global trends and then highlight also what the room thought. So this is the 47 different national societies that are in some phase of PER. It started in the Americas and then expanded in Africa, and then recently into Asia and then Europe, and has begun as well in the Middle East. From these 47, we've done a review, and these are the global averages of the areas. So the coordination is the strongest area among the national societies, with the policy, strategy, and standards, and the analysis and planning being on average the weakest. Some of at the component level, the strongest areas are in coordination, both within the movement, with authorities, with the local actors, and with the international regional support, as well as the auxiliary role, with the weakest areas being in resource mobilization, cash, the advocacy, policy, and business continuity. So having a plan as to how to exist long-term and to deal with the often ongoing crisis. Now, for the room, the biggest priorities were in local and branch capacity building, having access to direct funding and the long-term funding and planning, as well as the auxiliary role.
Any thoughts on the localization rewards? Phil?
So the biggest comments on localization and what it means is ownership, decision-making, partnership, accessibility, people.
Okay, so we hear also from your side some of those feedbacks, but we will open the floor for some questions. If anyone can indicate if there is any question for the national societies or for us, please let us know. Is there any question over here?
Philippine Red Cross. I cannot help but think that all of your experiences are our experiences as well, but at different levels, no? And this way I see it, preparedness for effective response is the message. Meaning to say you can be so prepared, but the response was not effective. You had more problems that you expected. You spent a lot of money on preparedness, but when the disaster came, it didn't work. Why? Because maybe leadership, maybe lack of orientation of the citizens, but localization must be the order of the day. Without localization, you'll have programs that come from the top and maybe not even seep to the bottom of the locally. So to me, the message now, which I have seen here, is that how do you interface with as many organizations and make coordination work? Because I noticed that the message of coordination sits very well in the survey. And so it's very real that without coordination, you will, no matter how prepared you are, you will not get the effective response. And in the same way, coordination brings other problems as well. There is, in the Philippines, for instance, where Red Cross is auxiliary to government. And I remember one disaster when Ms. Gwen Pang was the Secretary General, and the Red Cross already had what you call these boats, rubber boats, and the government didn't have. Local government didn't have. So after the disaster, the local government started buying boats so that the people can be picked up. What is the message then? We become models as well in terms of logistics, maybe in a small way, but our responsibility for the most vulnerable becomes really the order of the day. If we cannot deliver as Red Cross the assistance to the most vulnerable, no matter how good the government, no matter how good the Red Cross, it's not good enough because the preparedness must be for effective response. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comment. Yeah. Any other comment, any other question?
Thanks for the presentations. Renette with the IFRC Reference Center for Disaster Risk Management for the Caribbean. Really just 2 or 3 questions. One question is related to the pacing of the process. So when we are thinking about the timing, there was some emphasis made in the presentations in terms of recognizing and appreciating that it's a process. So it's not necessarily time bound, but the context in some national societies changes pretty rapidly. So if you've done a well-prepared national society in 2015 and the context changes and you don't redo that type of process, then how does that factor in with the results really? And then the other one, try not to make it too provocative, but so the PR process is aimed at enhancing the national disaster response mechanism. In the case where the auxiliary role or status is not completely understood in a country, and there might be some degree of, let's just say, competition or misunderstanding about the role of the Red Cross as it relates to emergency response, what can a national society really do in, to ensure that there's harmony with the National Disaster Office or the equivalent in country using this approach to support that? And then finally, there are a number of tools that are evolving and coming up to support this. So a new one is the RC2, which is this merger of Mega 5 and ODK. Those tools which were referenced in some of the presentations. What is the mechanism and how can we, maybe as a secretariat, support the dissemination of these updates to national societies? So for example, in the Caribbean, we may have undergone 3 orientations on PER over the last year, and that was prior to maybe the upcoming launch of RC2. So what are the recommendations to ensure that national societies are up to date and up to speed so that they're not overwhelmed with all of these new tools that ultimately are aimed to support them? That's it. Thanks.
Any other question from the floor, or we take here there is another one?
From your
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Jeremy Labbé from the ICRC. I'd like to build directly on the question that was asked before by our colleague from the IFRC, right, in the Caribbean, but adding maybe one layer to your second question, if there is a change of circumstances, or if the role of the auxiliary role of the national society is not well understood, and in particular relating to a point the Georgian Red Cross raised about the possible occurrence of conflict. What does it change in your view? How can it affect the preparedness of the national society, and what kind of support could it benefit from its partners within the movement or other partners outside of the movement to face this kind of changes, circumstances?
Okay, thank you. We will maybe open the opportunity for the national societies to reply some of the questions raised. Who wants to start, Yudma?
Thank you for your questions. First of all, regarding coordination, coordination is really one of the most important, for all the national societies worldwide, and especially for Georgia Red Cross has, as I already mentioned, coordination role of the all non-state actors. We are regularly on a quarterly basis conducting these non-state actors meetings because it's a very good tool to share our knowledge, experience, also to map who does what and where, because during emergency situations, during conflict, during natural disasters, it's very important that it's not only national society, it's not only UN or one organization who is dealing, and not to duplicate our activities and to make more efforts to support our local population. It's important to coordinate our activities. For example, during the Tbilisi flooding, Georgia Red Cross has a very good example of coordination because we used our assessment forms elaborated in advance, and all the non-state actors, we shared our roles, responsibilities, who will do assessment where, and then Georgia Red Cross Society received this assessment forms, and we had one joint report, and then we coordinated who will support which region, what communities, and so this was really a very good example. And so we are working to strengthening, and we also have SOP in coordination that for also volunteers, for new people coming, is institutionalized, and we mapped our main partners at local, national level, non-state actors, governmental organizations, and it's a big process of coordination. All the time we need to work on this. There was also a question regarding time frame. Maybe I missed in my presentation that we set the time when the first time we did this WPNS, it was that time we had it's a process, so we need to look through the benchmarks as well, look on the context of the situation in the country, and we set our goals and action plans which we had to do, and the activities which we had to fulfill in 1 year period. After 1 year, we again, all the department representatives, the same working group, we sat together and looked again what has changed, where we are now, what we have achieved and what we want to achieve, and then set another goals for another 1 year. It's all the time you need to look through this. It's not only once you do it and 10 years you just stay. It's a process, so we have to work on this. Maybe you will. So,
thank you. We'll add one additional comment. In order to do the preparedness for effective response evaluation or want to assess your national society, it should be understood by the leadership, by all the staff and volunteers, and there should be commitment to actually move this forward because it's voluntarily being progressed over the years. So the understanding and the advocacy, both internally in your organization and outside the organization, is very important. So as she had mentioned, the coordination of non-stakeholders or the humanitarian organizations in country can meet in advance and discuss to avoid conflict. And this meeting can be, depending on the context, regularly organized once every month or once every quarter. So it is very important. And in the evaluation, to be very effective, one of the things is you have to be really honest on the evaluation. If you do something, say something, cover up something, it's gonna be tested in the simulation in advance or in a real disaster. So be really honest on the response and have everyone understand the process and the way forward. This means like maybe a longer orientation session for the National Society before actually conducting the evaluation.
Rápidamente, gracias Reinet por las preguntas. No sé si yo tenga una respuesta, pero puedo hablar como Cruz Roja hondureña. El proceso ya comenzó, no es que exista un timeline, como decía mi colega de Georgia, es un proceso que puede durar muchos años. Lo que sí creería es que ya inició en las sociedades nacionales. Desde hace muchos años han comenzado a desarrollar su propia capacidad de respuesta. Probablemente no todas han iniciado su proceso de evaluación, puede ser, eso no lo sé, pero sé que todas han iniciado su proceso de preparación y lo han hecho por años. Aquí lo que nos ofrece este enfoque de localización es la oportunidad de hacer una evaluación con la herramienta, bueno, no con la herramienta, con todo el enfoque de Preparedness for Effective. Entonces, ese es el primer paso. Entonces, ya que todos comenzaron, es muy fácil, lo decía nuestra colega aquí de Mongolia, siendo muy honestos con las respuestas, vamos a tener más claridad de cuáles son nuestras debilidades y enfocarnos en eso. Ahora, el tema del rol auxiliar es muy claro para nosotros como Cruz Roja en el movimiento. Lo que no es tan claro es afuera de la casa, es cómo promovemos más hacia afuera con las instituciones, con el público en general, con las autoridades, cuál es el verdadero rol auxiliar. Además, también depende mucho de país en país. Hay países donde el rol auxiliar no es atender desastres. Su esencia está atendiendo otro tipo de crisis en esos países. Igual, hay países, y en América puedo citar varios, donde tenían un rol y con los años el sistema de ese país ha tomado la responsabilidad que tiene y le han quitado ambulancias o atención de desastre a la Cruz Roja de ese país. Entonces yo creería que estamos ahora en el tiempo para evaluar en cada sociedad nacional cuál es nuestro nivel de preparación, atenderlo y comenzar a promover todavía más nuestro rol auxiliar, lo que incluye hacer mejores planes de respuesta que estén verdaderamente vinculados con los planes de respuesta del sistema de cada país en general. Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Yeah, just a couple quick points from my side. The when is decided based on changes either in the context of what they're responding, the organization is responding to, if there's a change in the needs. So if the mandate's changed and you have to deliver a different service, then you absolutely need to look at how that system is able to do that or not. And also if potentially there's been leadership or staff changes, because then they may not know the results or they may not be interested in them and there may not be any buy-in. So if any of those three things have changed, that would be when I would say to do one, not based on any specific time frame. In terms of whether it's people-centered, the process is designed around people. So the orientation is whether people understand. The assessment is meant to involve everyone that should be involved in a response. The analysis and prioritization is done by those same responders. Like what's most important to you? Because there's a gamut of things that you could work on, but you can't and you won't. So what's the most important? And then the work plan is developed jointly. So there's some consensus building there. So that's how I would say that it's people-centered. And then just the last point around the effectiveness of the response, because I do agree. So the idea is that there's 4 different ways to do the assessment. You can do it as a self You can do it as a simulation. A simulation you would most want to do if you already have new procedures and you want to test to see if they work. So you don't have to find out in the actual operation that they don't. In terms of testing whether it is effective or not, you can use the evaluation either during a response to try to fix things that may not be working and to figure out why, because you can have an external team come and dig a bit to find out why things aren't getting to the field or why the coordination with X actor isn't working. And you could also do it as a post-operational. So then you find out what worked and what didn't from the reports, but then dig deeper as to the why. So you can try to work on those systems because you may have the SOPs, but maybe they, they weren't known or something like that. So.
Thank you so much for the questions and for the comments. We need to finalize the session, and we would like to invite you to take some of the materials, reference information that are available in the table behind us. And we will be at the booth of the Disaster and Crisis Department the whole afternoon, so we will be ready to continue the dialogue and to take more questions and to discuss with you if it is needed. The booth is just outside the place. So the reference center also had a booth there. So welcome, and please join us and take some more evidence and reference materials when we have been collecting a lot of experiences from national societies. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining.
I wanted to share the role of military. Yeah, because sometimes we believe bad stories. True. And we have to live agency. Sometimes failure and very observant because people complain. And you can accept people complain.
It's a very important part to get on top. Yep. Thank you. Hi there. Hi. Good job. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Very proud to see all the work. Good. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Gotta do it ourselves and no, but honestly, there just has to be more orientation because, to be honest, JP knows it of what it existed 9 years ago.